Hello, I'm Chris Thomas. I'm applying for the position of Machinist 1 at Gregory Poole Industries. Why am I interested in this position in your company? Well, I recently graduated from Nash County Community College with an associate's degree in computer integrated machining. And that program is split about 50-50 between manual machining and CNC programming, which tracks very closely with this job description. This job description clearly calls out there will be a manual component, but there will also be CNC programming. I enjoyed both. I enjoyed the hands-on aspect of the manual machining. I've always been more of a hands-on kind of person, and that appeals. But also in my previous career, I was in the software industry, specifically development and software testing. So those will serve me very well, that experience in CNC programming. I think it will be a good fit for this job. And Gregory Poole Industries, there's some things that I like about that. I like companies that are focused. They keep their eye on the ball. And you started out as a Caterpillar dealer for North Carolina in the roadworking and construction industries, and you still are. You've stayed focused on that. But your focus has been heavy equipment, which was your primary focus in the beginning, and it still is, but you've managed to move that into adjacent areas. You've bought competitors and also grown organically into heavy equipment in forestry, into mining. You moved into marine heavy equipment, even buses. But it's always been heavy equipment. You've stayed very focused, and I like that sort of focus in the company. In addition, you're family run. I have always worked in large corporate environments, and I've always thought working for a small to medium-sized family-run business could be an experience that I would enjoy. 3 greatest strengths. Well, I'd have to say context switching, attention to detail, and troubleshooting. Something my previous managers have noted, I context switch quickly and easily, more readily than many people. I can be working on a task and be fully involved in it, and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, Chris, I need you to help me with this," or my boss comes up and says, "Chris, I need you to drop that, and I need you to get this information for me." And I will look at what I'm doing, take some mental notes, maybe write down some actual notes, and move off that task. That task is it's done. It's out of my mind. I'm fully engaged on this new task, and it has 100% of my attention. And when that task is done, I come back to where I was. I sit down, I look at my notes, I look at my computer, and I say, where was I? Okay, I was working on this, and I was here. And within 2 or 3 minutes, I'll be back to work, picking up where I left off. No significant transition, no significant downtime. Several of my bosses have noted that I can do that very easily, surprisingly easy to some of them. Attention to detail. My previous job in the software industry, my previous career in the software industry was in QA, quality assurance, testing software. And you have to make sure that software does what it's supposed to do, as it's supposed to do it, and doesn't do anything it's not supposed to do. Bugs will happen. That's the nature of the industry. But you have to make sure that it works the way it's supposed to, and there's no critical flaws. And you can't do that without attention to detail. And machining, definitely you have to pay attention to detail. You're dealing with 10,000ths of an inch sometimes just thousandths of an inch. But either way, if you're not paying attention to the details, you're going to mess up a part or multiple parts, and that's time and money wasted. One of my other greatest strengths that I called out was troubleshooting. I used to be in charge of a computer lab, had approximately 80 computers. And as you can imagine, there were problems that cropped up, and I had to figure out what they were. Sometimes it was tearing a machine down completely. Other times it was just figuring out what wasn't working, what component had fried and replaced it, or a problem with software. And when I was testing software, if I found a problem, I couldn't just say, "Oh, there's a problem here." I'd have to look at it, figure out what caused it, how to reproduce it regularly. I'd have to troubleshoot that problem so I understood it well enough to show the developers and prove to the developers that it was actually a problem. So I developed some very solid troubleshooting skills from that. My greatest professional accomplishment, I'd say there was two. Neither one specific event. One of them was just my entire previous career. What do I mean by that? Well, I spent 30 years in the software industry as a frontline worker. Never moved into management, didn't want to. Never moved into project management, didn't want to. I spent the large majority of it testing software. Now, one thing about the software industry is they really have not learned to appreciate experience. They want the latest and the greatest, which you get from kids straight out of college. So that means that if you want to stay in the industry, stay on the front line, actually working on a product, you have to stay relevant. You have to stay up with the latest trends, the latest software, the latest industry moves. Because if you don't, you'll find that you're stuck. And if you wind up losing your job for some reason, lay off, or the project ends, you won't be able to find another one because they want what's the latest. And of all the people that I knew in the industry when I first started for the first 10 years or so, only maybe 1 in 10 are still in the field. Frontline workers. Most have moved on because they didn't stay relevant. They didn't keep up. So they moved into management or project management. Some moved into academia, teaching. Others just did complete career changes. I stayed relevant for 30 years until I got to a point where I said, I want to do something else. I'm quite proud of that. That took a lot of work. In addition, my second greatest accomplishment, this happened multiple times. I got somebody who was new to QA, generally right out of college, and they had no QA experience because colleges don't teach how to test software. They teach how to write software. And I would have to take them from being a programmer and a programmer mindset to training them to be a solid software tester. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing them grow. I enjoyed seeing them learn. And I really enjoyed it when I could see them taking the experience that I had given them and applying it, especially in ways I hadn't thought of. But they became solid testers and built great careers. And I am very pleased that I was able to do that. And I consider that also one of my greatest accomplishments. I'm Chris Thomas. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.